Today we talk about a fox, a chicken, and a good Pharisee. One of these three doesn't exist. How many of you have been to church camp? How many of you have directed church camp or been a counselor at church camp? Okay. Well, church camp one year, there was it was a 3-day camp. It was just Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. And by Saturday, the kids were still rambunctious, but the counselors were just exhausted and worn out. And so it came to after lunch, and they had their closing ceremony, and they saw that they still had 2 hours left. And the counselor said, how are we going to make it through this last 2 hours? And one of the counselors said, I know, we can play fox and chickens. And the rest of them said, well, how do you play that? He said, well, you get them all the kids in a circle, and you go around and whisper in their ears whether they're a fox or a chicken, and you blow the first whistle and all the chickens run and hide, and then you blow the second whistle and the foxes go out and try to find them. And so they said, oh, that sounds like a great idea. So they got all the kids, 125 of them, together and got them in a big circle, and the counselors went around and whispered in their ears, fox or chicken, fox or chicken, fox or chicken. And they blew the first whistle. Well, what I didn't tell you is that they told everyone in the circle they were a chicken. And so they blew the first whistle, and they all ran over this 40-acre camp to hide. And the counselors looked at each other and said, we have an hour to sleep. You can use that anytime you need to get the kids out of the way and you want some time for yourself. Well, this story today is not about fox and chickens, but it is about a person that Jesus called a fox. And then Jesus does refer to chickens in a little bit. And Herod was this king who was out trying to get rid of anybody who was threatening his rule and his power, his kingdom. And Jesus was one of those people. And so he was out to kill Jesus. And the Pharisees in the area thought, oh, this is a good way, a good time of getting Jesus to leave our area. And we can tell him that you better leave town, Jesus, because Herod is coming to kill you. Well, Herod wasn't sending people out to kill. He was just, if they found Jesus, they were going to kill him. But the Pharisees thought, we are wanting to get rid of this Jesus character, and this would be a good way to where it makes us look like we're caring and concerned, and it really gets rid of Jesus. So the Pharisees tried to tell Jesus and all the disciples that they were chickens so that they would run and hide, but it didn't work. And when the Pharisees told Jesus that you better run because Herod wants to kill you, Jesus stood up to the Pharisees and said, will you tell that fox, you tell that fox Herod that I'm going to finish my business and he isn't going to scare me away. And I'm going to do this and this and this in these 3 days. And at the end of 3 days, my work will be finished. And then I'll see if it's God's will that I move on. So it upset the Pharisees and their plan didn't work. It's oftentimes we run into these people in our lives that are out to get us or against us in one way or the other, and we have to make a choice. Are we going to face them and confront them, or are we going to back away and go hide? And that's not just something that happens in the Bible, and it's not just something that happens in the news. How many times in the news when some crisis has happened and they're interviewing someone from the town where the crisis happened, does the person say, "This isn't supposed to happen in our town. This has never happened here before. This happens somewhere else." And so we can't live thinking that these challenges and these hurtful things are not going to happen to us, because they will. Sooner or later, we're going to get hurt either emotionally or a broken heart, or we're going to get hurt physically or mentally, and we're going to have to make the decision at that time, what direction are we going to go? And I can't help but think of Sylvia when I talk about these things. Sylvia got hit by a car. And the first time I saw her afterwards, she was smiling and said, "I'll make it through this. I'll make it through this." She wasn't lying there saying, "Poor me," which she would have had the right to do, and I expected, to say, "Oh, I hurt, and it's awful." She chose to say, "I will make it through this. I will." And we have that same choice. Every time something bad comes our way, we can become a victim, or we can be the one who points out, "Oh, you fox, I'm not going to give in to you. I'm not going to give in to what you're trying to do to me, no matter what it is." And so we have these fears, and we have these accidents, and we have these terrible things that come into our lives, and we have to choose. On the way down here this morning, I was listening to the radio, and there was a really neat group that was on the radio called Wishes Plus. Have you ever heard of them? It's an organization that gives wishes to children who are dying, or have a terminal disease, or, their life just isn't doing great at the moment. And they were talking about how they work with these children, and that they try, if they can, to give them their wish. We try to give them their wish. Or we try to make them as comfortable as possible, if it's too far along and the wish wouldn't make any difference. And I thought, here is an organization who made a decision. We could sit by and we could just hear of children who develop cancer, leukemia, who are born with birth defects, who are hit by automobiles and are expected to die. We can sit by as a people and just say, "Isn't that too bad?" Or we could do something about it. And they did something about it. They made the choice. They chose life over death. They chose doing something and facing it head on instead of just letting it go. All of us have these fears. All of us have these bad things. I read an article the other day of the top 10 fears of people in the United States. The top 10 fears. And if I can remember them, I'll share them with you. The top fear, number 10 of the top 10, was pain. People were afraid of pain. And then, we can come down 4 or 5 and know that most of them are physical suffering of one kind or another. But when you get to number 5, it starts getting a little bizarre. But it gets to the category where more people are involved in this. And number 5 is needles. One of the top fears, number 5, is needles. And then number 4, spiders. Number 3, snakes. I would have put that number 1. But snakes. And number 2, I don't know, I can't remember. But number 2 was heights. And number 1 was public speaking. That's why I'm the only one up here talking today. Public speaking. And we have all these fears that are common to humankind. And in these fears, we can choose the same way that Jesus. We have a choice whether we're just going to become victims of those fears and let them develop into phobias that ruin our lives and dictate what we're going to do and what we're not going to do. Or we can confront them and say, I am not going to give in to this fear. To me, giving in to fears is also, like giving in to negative attitudes from other people. I have a personal story here that developed once I started driving down here to Gaylord. Along the highway that I come down, there is this big sign put out by an organization, a religious organization, and it shows this little baby, and it says, life begins at, you know what I'm talking about, the kind of sign. And then up at the top it has joy written. Like this baby made it through, was not aborted, and there is joy. Now, I'm not for abortion. I'm not in favor of abortion, but I am kind of turned off by the mindset of religions that just get on one topic and keep throwing it in your face, as if they have a corner on this truth and rightness. And so every time I would drive by this sign, I would just try to look the other way, because I didn't want to see it. Oh, I don't want to see that sign, And when I'd be driving home at night, I would intentionally look the other way, so that I wouldn't see this sign. But you know what? The whole time I was looking this way, I was thinking about, I wonder if that sign's back. I was thinking about that sign no matter whether I was looking at it or if I was looking away from it, avoiding it. And so I made a decision. I'm going to confront this sign. So I drove over it. No. I am going to confront this sign and bring it into a friendship relationship. And so I started, every time I drive past the sign and the little baby's picture and the big word joy, I'd say, hi Joy. Good to see you, Joy. You're looking nice this morning, Joy. And you know what? Now I look forward to seeing it. And reminded me that there's this cute little girl that I have named Joy. And I love it. I drive by, and I no longer see the words that bothered me. I see the cute little baby and the word joy. And I look for her now. And I miss her if I didn't see her, because it's dark at night when I drive home, and I have to really look for joy. That's a whole sermon in itself. I have to look for joy, and if I miss her, I miss that I didn't see her. So we have to confront these things. And we have to confront them, or they ruin our lives. They ruin our lives. And what Jesus is saying in this passage is that when those hard times come, when those issues come up against us, that we have a choice. We can become the victim, or we can remember that Jesus stood up against those victims for us. One of the things he said in the scriptures was, "Oh, Jerusalem, Jerusalem, how I have longed to gather you under my wings like a mother hen and protect you, but you wouldn't come." And, that's a beautiful image. Is it still up here? Yeah. It's a beautiful image of these little chicks coming in and being protected. And the only thing the mother hen has to protect her chicks with is herself. In National Geographic, not too many years ago, there was an article on fires, in the forest fires, and there was an area where these firefighters went out after the fire some kind of a fowl, a chicken. But it had been burned from head to toe. And it was dead. But the minute they poked it and started to turn it over, out ran the chicks. Out ran the chicks. The mother hen had put herself between her chicks and the danger, and covered them up with her wings, and had given her own life that her chicks might live. And that's what Jesus did. He gave his life so that we might know the love of God, and that we would have the opportunity to choose to accept the love of God and live the love of God, or to let the evil that comes against us win. No matter what the evil is that comes to your life, you have a choice. And that choice is to choose being a victim and lost, or accepting Jesus Christ and what he has done.